is it good for?
Yeah, bomb.
Okay, but before we do that, just a quick note, just in case you missed our last review. If the audio quality is different this time, it's because we are going old school with this review and actually reviewing it as we're driving.
Yes.
So if the audio quality is a little wonky, you hear background like the air conditioning or the road, or we suddenly find the road is closed due to bicycles or something, that's why. So just a little FYI there.
Yes.
So anyway,
trying to fit our reviewing into our schedule, it means reviewing while we drive.
Hey, and hence the name, the Drive Home Reviews Podcast, and we are actually driving home this time.
So let's talk. We're going to be reviewing Oppenheimer, but before we do that, kind of got us on the subject of war movies in general.
It's a big genre.
It is a big genre, and especially if you include anything that's happening during a war. Because, I mean, come on, that's basically most of the 20th century.
That's the hard part of, is this a war movie? Because I feel like we had this exact same conversation with Air. Is it a sports movie? Or even though sports is kind of the inciting incident, is it really about sports?
I would say one of the plots of this movie is definitely a war movie.
Yeah.
So let's see. So, do you have any that stand out to you, first of all?
One of my favorite, of course, my dad is a war movie buff, John Wayne, and he loves the classic war films and all that, so I've seen a bunch of them. My favorite war movie, I believe, would probably be The Memphis Belle.
Okay, yeah. Let's see, I'm trying to remember. Matthew Modine, Tate Donovan, Harry Connick Jr., Sean Astin.
Yes. It's Billy Zane.
About to ship off, right?
They're the first plane about to complete their tour of duty.
Right.
So they have one more mission and then they're done, but that last mission is deep in the heart of Germany.
Right.
So it's that 90% of the film takes place on board the bomber.
I'd say that one is a pretty good representation of you don't want to say a buddy war movie, but an ensemble war movie.
It was a good example of kind of the Band of Brothers kind of war movie, the kind that was very popular during the war. We few, we happy few. These everyday people doing extraordinary things, kind of stories.
So, speaking of Band of Brothers, did you ever watch the entirety?
I did not watch the entire thing. I've seen pieces of it, but I haven't watched the entire thing.
I have, and I think that you probably would go back and it would be easier for you to do now, considering that's kind of how we consume all media now.
Yeah, true.
It's in the mini-series type of binge watching. It would be interesting to see if it's still obviously there's parts of it that are a little bit screwed up because of the subject matter and the time place it takes them, but I think it would still be a good watch today. Adam Goldberg was in that, is it?
Yeah. What I remember about Band of Brothers is that it was the top-selling DVD.
Yeah, and it was $100-something for the whole.
Yeah, but for Christmas, Father's Day, we could not keep that thing on the shelf.
Yeah. I remember that.
Another good World War II one is not. It's hard to even call this one a movie because it's more like a documentary reenaction. Is Tora Tora Tora.
Okay.
Which is, if you've never heard of it, it's a movie about the bombing of Pearl Harbor, told from both the American and Japanese perspectives.
I don't think I've seen that one.
They had a Japanese director direct all the Japanese scenes, and an American director directed all the American scenes. It's very long. like I say, it's more like a documentary. Like they feature just about everybody who had anything, like the entire series of events that led to it and how it didn't get stopped, and it covers everything. And sometimes it feels like it takes forever, but the attack sequence is it is something else, especially when you consider it's all practical.
Now, speaking of Pearl Harbor, did you watch Pearl Harbor?
Yes, I watched Pearl Harbor.
And from your tone of voice, I can tell that you thought much of it.
I refer you to the seminal work on Pearl Harbor, Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor, the song from Team America, World Police, Pearl Harbor Sucks and I Miss You. I refer you to that, and I think that kind of covers my...
Pearl Harbor did not pass my Is This Better Than an App test.
No.
I slept through that one. Let's see. Okay, so now speaking of, like, we're still on World War II here. The movie I'm thinking of is the one where they're BBC film writers and they're writing...
Their Finest.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies.
Yes.
It has crossed over into that Exalted Company. Yeah, that is a great movie.
Now that's a war movie. It's making the propaganda films, right?
Yeah.
So I would consider that. If you enjoy period pieces, that would be one I would recommend highly.
I would recommend it highly, even if you don't. It's a great movie. But you know what's funny is that when we say war movies, what we're usually talking about is World War II.
Right.
That tends to be what most people consider the genre to be.
I would say that we have gotten, not as many as you would think by this point, but we've gotten some good movies about Vietnam.
Oh, there's a lot of Vietnam movies.
Interestingly, you were telling me the other day you've never seen Apocalypse Now.
No, I've never had the desire to see Apocalypse Now.
So that one is that one will really send you on a mind bender.
I guess you're right. I guess it's World War II and Vietnam are the two films.
Yeah, you don't see a whole lot of World War I. All Quiet on the Western Front.
You're seeing more of them now. That one that came out a few years ago, Dunkirk's a World War II.
Dunkirk's World War II.
Yeah.
Okay. Which one's the World War I one?
1918 or whatever. The one that's shot supposedly in real time. That was out a few years ago.
Yeah.
So that was a World War I.
Here's an interesting one. A war movie.
Okay.
That is perhaps not really thought of as a war movie. Oh gosh, I'm going to forget the name of it now.
Oh, that one.
Our Irish movie.
Oh, you're the Banshees of
Inisherin.
Yeah.
The Banshees of Inisherin. That is an allegory of a war movie.
For the Irish Civil War. That's an allegory movie, not necessarily a war movie.
True.
You know. You know what is a good one for Civil War? Glory.
Okay, Glory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the only one I was thinking of was Gone with the Wind, and that's got some really, that's got a lot of racism in it. Of course, yeah.
I mean, wouldn't that be period specific?
Yes, but the way that they treated the black actors was still pretty racist. So, plus, they took the whole plight of the Civil War and made about how hard it was for the white lady.
I mean,
but okay, so Glory with
Morgan Freeman, Denzel Washington, it's where he won his first Oscar. Matthew Broderick, Carrie Elways, the guy who plays the captain on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, whose name I can never remember.
Andre Braugher.
Yeah, he's in it. Yeah, it's a great film. Though I will always maintain, as great as Denzel Washington is, the movies he's won the Oscar for are not the movies I think he deserved the Oscar for. I think Morgan Freeman deserved the Oscar for Glory more than Denzel Washington.
Has Morgan Freeman gotten an Oscar?
Yes, he got one for $1 Million Baby, the Clint Eastwood film.
But he should have had one for Shawshank.
He should have. Well, see, that's a hard one because that was a big year for, if I remember correctly, he was nominated for Shawshank. Gary Sinise was nominated for Forrest Gump.
No.
Martin Landau was nominated for Ed Wood, and he's the one who won. And it's like picking between those three. That's a hell of a. Those are some great performances. So he probably should have won for Shawshank, but you know, when you're up against that kind of competition, it's hard to say someone didn't deserve it.
So a lot of the ones that we're talking about, well, like back to Revolutionary War times, you've got
The Patriot. That's it.
No, there's more.
Unless you count 1776.
Well, if you count 1776, you have to count Hamilton.
Oh, God.
So, and I know you don't ever want to count Hamilton.
Never.
But a lot of these that we're talking about were made some time ago. And while I do think that they definitely present a point of view. If you look at, another one I was thinking of was Good Morning Vietnam.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
They definitely present a point of view, but I feel like the movies that have been based around war in the past few years, the point of view has been trying to push a patriotic agenda. They felt more like propaganda films than they have like war movies with something to say.
I don't know.
Something like SEAL Team 6.
Okay.
Or the one Bradley Cooper was in with the shooting, where he was...
American Sniper?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a propaganda film.
The most recent First Blood movie. You know, a lot of those that you would like, and The Sound of Freedom, like things that you would consider to be like fighting or war movies are...
Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah. So...
But I do believe that for all of those, there are films that come out on the other side. I believe The Hurt Locker was very kind of the truth of war. There was one that came out a few years ago with Sebastian Stan and Samuel L. Jackson. I think it was called The Last Act of Courage or something like that, about a lawyer investigating an incident during the Vietnam War to see if...
I was going to say Captain America, Winter Soldier.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like, yeah. It's weird that we can kind of associate all Hollywood down to the people who were in the Marvel movies at this point.
Now, there was a movie called Jarhead.
Yeah.
That was a really good look at kind of, the intense pressure. But as far as like looking at soldiers in the military and things like PTSD, I really think television is doing a better job of examining that kind of thing than movies are. Even things like Law and Order SVU or, shows of that nature, really talking about trauma and decompression and the things that people go through during war. Fire Country even talked about that. So, I think television's doing a better job.
I don't know. I think it's kind of a 6 of one, half dozen of the other for movies. I do believe that a lot of them do use it for a more, let's say, conservative perspective. But I do think that for all of those, there are those on the other side.
Now, what would you consider A Few Good Men a war movie?
I don't know. It deals with the military, but I don't know if I consider it a war movie.
Well, it's dealing with a specific incident on Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of like, do you separate war movies versus military movies?
Yeah, that's a difficult question.
Also, we're missing a glaring one. Pauly Shore was it in the Army?
In the Army now.
With Andy Dick.
Yes. Yes. Let us never forget the most poignant political commentator of our day, Pauly Shore.
Lori Petty was in that one, wasn't she?
Yes, she was.
I mean, that is the first time actually.
And David Alan Grier.
Because I was 90s teen when that came out, and I did not realize women were not allowed to go in combat situations until that. So yeah, interesting. But anyways, what about G.I. Jane? Speaking of women in combat situations,
again, feels more like a military movie, less of a war movie.
True. Now, would you consider something like, you say, the first Captain America? That's a war movie. But it's fictionalized version of World War II.
I don't know if I'd go that far with that one. That one I still feel fits into a comic book movie set during World War II, like The Rocketeer.
Okay. There was a really great series on a couple of years ago. I'm going to totally forget what it was called. But basically the concept was that what happened if Germany had won?
There's been a lot of like that. There's been a lot of...
Gosh, I cannot remember.
I mean, if you're going that far, then do we count Indiana Jones as war movie since he's fighting Nazis?
Technically, like, that's my question. Like, what is I don't know. It's too hard to define genre, subgenre.
Yeah.
But
what's interesting to me, and I think when you think of war films, I think, and I'm speaking generally here, when you're thinking of films that are rah, wave the flag, we feud, that's usually a World War II film.
It is, yeah.
And I think that's because that's the last war we fought that it was...
a clear, definitive winner?
Yeah, well, not only that, but, I mean, can you really say there wasn't a good guy and a bad guy? Like, are we really going to sit here and go, that Hitler, he had some decent points and we shouldn't have gotten involved?
No.
So it's one of those things where, from a strictly storytelling perspective,
I would say that's one of the few wars in history you can really say that about.
Yeah.
Because even World War I was more about boundary lines and colonialization than it was about, good guy versus bad guy. So yeah, I would agree with you there. There's plenty of people who would try to say that about the Vietnam War, but...
Well, I think the Vietnam War movies are the other way. I think when they start talking about the reality of war and the aftermath, like the only movie about World War II that really sticks out where that was a big topic was The Best Years of Our Lives.
All right, yeah. Okay.
Which is a fantastic movie if nobody's ever seen it. Interesting historical topic. Did you know that the actor who plays Homer in The Best Years of Our Lives is the only actor to receive 2 Academy Awards for playing the same character? Or for the exact same movie, rather.
No.
He won 2 Academy Awards for that role.
How?
Well, he was up for Best Supporting Actor, but they couldn't guarantee he was going to win.
So they nominated him for Best Actor, too?
No, so they gave him an honorary award.
Oh.
Because he was not an actor.
Okay.
He was an actual amputee.
Okay.
Who agreed to be in the movie. That's like, I think, the only actual movie he made.
Weirdly, Forrest Gump deals pretty honestly with the aftermath of war.
Yeah, with the Lieutenant Dan character.
Mm-hmm. And with Bubba being killed in the war.
Yeah.
And of course, Born on the 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a Tom Cruise movie.
So
we are not Tom Cruise stans in this house.
No, not really.
So yeah, there's I think more focus now on aftermath of war.
Yeah, now there is. Now that's more of a theme in a lot of these films. But
yeah, I think that they could be delving deeper into that. I know, women coming back. I'm thinking of Revolutionary Road. Was it? Is that the one with Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio?
That was Titanic.
No, they did two together. Never mind. Anyways, okay, so let's chat. We're gonna take a break and we're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about a bomb.
Yeah.
The question is, are we referring to the atomic one or the cinematic one?
Yeah. So, be back in a second. Okay. Is Oppenheimer still running?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Oh my god.
A warning to those of you who decide to go see Oppenheimer. It is over 3 hours long. Like over 3 hours. And had plenty of places it could have stopped. It'd been perfectly fine to stop there. But let's talk Oppenheimer.
Oh my god, Okay, I'm gonna start with this. This is how I want to start. I truly believe, and I'm not a big one for conspiracy theories, but I truly believe this whole Barbieheimer thing that the internet suddenly invented, I truly believe that was started by the studio putting out Oppenheimer as a way of gaining some kind of an audience. Because it made people feel like they had to go see both. Didn't it? I mean, am I wrong? There's this whole thing of which one are you going to see first? Do you see Oppenheimer first and then go to Barbie? It never asked the question, do you fucking want to see Oppenheimer?
Well, I always was going to see Oppenheimer because I'm a history nerd. So it was always one that I was going to want to go see. But I think maybe, I think that's going to see a perfect little nugget of a movie like Barbie and then seeing this afterwards just exemplified how bad it was. Okay, let's get into
Well, especially when you consider just how, and I think that's why people kind of delved into this this internet thing, is just how diametrically opposed these movies are in everything.
Yeah.
Color, pacing, tone,
Okay, so let's talk basics. Cillian Murphy is playing J. Robert Oppenheimer, the person who was the director for the Manhattan Project, which of course is the atomic bomb that, bombs that were dropped on Japan during World War II. We start off with a biopic. It delves into a war movie and then ends with a political drama.
Yes,
this movie was 3 movies.
3 movies in one, and
I didn't necessarily want to see at least 2 of them.
Yes.
So
I think this is the first thing we're going to get into, and it is we've already said it, but god damn, this movie is long.
Yeah.
And this movie is long because it is not one movie.
Yeah.
And I think that is, some people may love this, but to me, it is like, what story are you telling?
Well, okay, this is an issue with biopics. A life is not succinct. Life, it does not have one plot line. It has multiple plot lines. So when you're telling the story of a person, you have to pick and choose the focus of that story. And Christopher Nolan did not do that.
Well, I think he did. He just didn't want to give up anything else, because the story is about what he was getting at was the whole they need you until they don't, and they'll praise you as a genius 1 minute and stick a knife in your back when you're no longer of use to them.
But here's the problem. He tells, we said 3 different stories.
Yes.
And he tells each of them with different cinematic tools, different camera motions, different film even. One of them is done completely on black and white film. Mm-hmm. One of them is done more of sepia tone, and one I think would be digital, I would say. And
I don't know, because he doesn't use digital film, does Christopher Nolan?
Well, there's definitely 3 different looks to the 3 different sections of the movie. And it's all interspersed. It's not chronological. You start off with the latest, the most recent point in history, like
the black and white,
which is done in black and white, and then you're going all over the place to childhood, or not necessarily childhood,
young adulthood when he's in college, and then
like I never fully grasped if Oppenheimer's little trial was going on at the same time as Strauss's trial. Because you have Oppenheimer's life is the one section of it. And the second section is this trial he has put on to see if he is still patriotic and deserves security clearance. Mm-hmm. And then the third one with Robert Downey Jr. is Strauss's, what are they called? The hearings to determine if they can be a cabinet member.
Yeah, his vetting process.
And they jump from one to the other continuously throughout the movie. Which is fine if they would have picked one and said, this is our base of our movie, and then gone off of it.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
So that is issue number 1.
Okay, what's issue number 2?
Issue number 2 for me is what I've said and one of the reasons why, until you decided, I had no desire to see Oppenheimer. And that is because Christopher Nolan is a brilliant visual director. I really respect his adherence to classic filmmaking standards. I really appreciate that he is much more likely to use practical effects than CGI. I really appreciate all these things about him. But his biggest flaw as a filmmaker is his complete detachment from all human emotion. And this film is a 3-hour-long example of that. We know the characters are supposed to be feeling emotions. They're telling us they're feeling emotions. But he uses a lot of fancy camera tricks and editing to convey the emotions, but in most instances, I never convinced that the character is actually feeling whatever emotion they're supposed to be feeling, with only one exception.
Florence Pugh?
Matt Damon.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Damon. Matt Damon is the only person giving a spirited, energetic performance. I made this comparison when we were actually leaving the theater. I remember seeing a documentary about the Philadelphia Flyers hockey team, and they had footage of their training camp from like the 70s, and they would be skating with these bungee cords, to like get them to skate against resistance and all of that. And that's what I feel almost every actor in this movie was doing. They were acting with these bungee cords constantly pulling them back from actually connecting emotionally with anything that was being said or done.
And I say, I don't respect Christopher Nolan as a director, even visually, because I feel like he is still using every trick in his book like a film student. And secondly, he cannot or will not portray women in a likable way in any of his movies. Emily Blunt and Florence Pugh are basically the only real female characters in this. There's a couple other bit parts where we don't even get to know their name. And Florence Pugh Pugh is a phenomenal actress, a phenomenally emotive actress. And Emily Blunt can be charming and still have a disagreeable personality. Like we were talking about The Devil Wears Prada, where she is definitely an unlikable person, but still charming on the screen. In this movie, I felt like someone was physically pulling her features down and making her unlikable. Like, just completely unlikable.
They saved a lot on her wardrobe, though.
No, they saved a lot on Florence Pugh's wardrobe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
She's naked the majority of the time. And good for you. You do you, Florence. You look great, okay? That's awesome. But I just... the way they cut it so that even as they were doing close-ups, her nipples were still in the shot. It just felt objective more than necessary. Didn't you think?
Yeah, it did. And I'm sorry, and I'm going to get real basic here and real mean, maybe. You know, I get that they keep saying that, you know, Oppenheimer was such a ladies' man, you know, apparently. But, you know, just from the character they portrayed, like, why? Like, were all these women like, ooh, the greasy scarecrow boy?
No. Okay, and see, I think that's your problem, is that you think of him as Scarecrow.
No, I'm not saying like Scarecrow from Batman. I mean a fucking literal skinny-ass scarecrow.
I disagree with you. I think Cillian Murphy has a very pretty face.
In other movies, not in this one.
I don't know. He's still attractive. Plus, brilliance will get you far. Okay? Being the smart guy, being the professor will get you laid a lot.
Okay.
But yeah, no, there was, I felt more distracted by her nudity and his nudity, honestly, because they're both naked in these chairs.
Yeah, he's just sitting there smoking, butt naked, and he's just like, hey, how you doing?
It was more distracting than...
But again, see, this is
meaningful.
This is exactly what I'm talking about, because here you have these two people are both naked in their most basic primal form after a you know a night of supposed lovemaking, and they're supposed to be having a embittered conversation about him
laying themselves bare,
you know, breaking off their relationship, and they are just like, oh, are you not going to see me anymore? No, I'm not going to see you anymore. She can't do for you what I can. Oh, I know that. You know, it's like you get more stimulating conversation flirting with the goddamn wall.
Well, and the thing is, like, and I get them being naked in the scene is them being vulnerable with each other, but you didn't have to show me that.
But they're not vulnerable.
No.
Like I say, I could excuse it if I felt like it was giving way to some kind of human connection, and it's not. They're just naked.
And then the parts where, you know, Oppenheimer's having these kind of panic attacks, thinking about, you know, the damage that the bombs have done and whatnot. And instead of letting us read that on his face, because we could, Cillian Murphy is a very good actor. We could have read that on his face. He could have emoted that. Instead, like, the walls behind him are waving, and like there's making a wah 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 noise, and like it's just no. It feels like Christopher Nolan trusts his effects and his camera work, but not his actors, and that really sucks because this was loaded with talented people.
Yeah, this had an amazing cast.
Cillian Murphy, Matt Damon,
Robert Downey
Jr., Jack Quaid's in there, Florence Pugh, Emily Blunt. We had Benny Safdie. What's his name? Krumholtz?
I don't remember.
The guy who plays Isidore. David Krumholtz. Because if you need a Jewish guy who does math, you get David Krumholtz. Which I thought he did pretty well in this. Oh gosh, I can't even think of who else. Just like, I mean, Gary Oldman
as Harry Truman, yeah.
excuse me, star-studded, but not when you have that much talent in your cast. You don't have to rely on all these fancy tricks.
I think Robert Downey Jr. did a good job, mainly because it was so opposite what we've come to know as the Robert Downey Jr. performance. You know, he's become so synonymous with Tony Stark and that kind of snarky,
right?
You know, and this was so far removed. It shows that
Robert Downey Jr. has range.
Yeah, that Robert Downey Jr. is actually a really great actor. I know a lot of people who only know him as Iron Man might not remember all the things he did prior to that, but so I thought his performance was good in that respect. To me, the MVP of it's Matt Damon.
Right.
Because the only time I was entertained and interested in paying attention is when Matt Damon was on the screen.
Josh Hartnett was in there too.
Yeah, Josh Hartnett was in there. So when Matt Damon and Cillian Murphy were on there doing their Leonard and Sheldon back and forth, okay, yeah, that kept me interested. But the rest of the time it was a slog. It was an absolute slog to get through.
It was, and I'm not saying that a 3-hour movie can't be entertaining. I've sat through Gone with the Wind. I've seen plenty of 3-hour-long movies. I will watch, I don't know how many episodes of a documentary in one sitting. But it didn't have anything new to say. You know? And I think, and that's unfortunate, because I do think that Oppenheimer's story is an important story to tell. About how he got caught up in this thing and realized the damage it was going to cause, and backtracked, because you can do that. That is something people don't realize they can do. When you realize that you're wrong about something, you are allowed to go back and change your mind. And he did that, and he fought for regulations on atomic weapons and nuclear weapons. So, and I think that is an important story to tell. I think it completely gets lost in this mess of a movie.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Nothing that isn't just a rant, you know, because again, you know, like you compare this to the Barbie movie,
okay,
which is, again, comparing apples and oranges, because they're two very different types of film.
Fuck apples and oranges. This is comparing a plain piece of paper and a pineapple.
Yes. I mean, one is a lot more colorful, a lot more manic, a lot more, you know, surprisingly depth-filled, and the other is the Barbie movie. No, I'm kidding. I just had to do that. I'm sorry. No, but seriously, I got more depth of emotion.
Right.
I connected more with the characters in that manic fucking acid trip that was the Barbie movie than I got out of this 3-hour-long self-congratulatory Oscar bait film. And
I think what you should have said was, one was a movie about plastic people who can't seem to handle their emotions and live in a crazy, chaotic world. And the other movie is about a doll.
And the other movie is the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
And let's make no mistake, folks. I am very confident this thing is going to get award nominations, if not wins.
Of course.
I predict Oscars for nominations for Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. Maybe Emily Blunt and maybe Matt Damon. This film is probably good because it's the kind of film that cinemaphiles and critics and all those just love. And maybe if I'd seen this 3 years later and I watched it on my own time and could kind of, you know, I don't know, maybe I'd be in that camp. Maybe it's one that if I watch it again, if I'm, you know, ever suffering from insomnia and I feel the need to put myself through that, I do, because I do that. I will go back and rewatch films that I have previously panned to see, okay, and do I feel differently with age and time and, you know. But I just could not connect or anything with this goddamn movie. And the fact that it refused to end.
Oh, yeah, it was bad.
Oh, I have not seen that many false endings since The Lord of the Rings.
Also, Christopher Nolan kept trying to do the thing that he does in like Tenet and Memento and all of his Christopher Nolan movies, where there's a twist or a turn, or you didn't see that coming. But the thing is like, this is a biopic, okay? Like,
Yeah.
like, you can't, like, I don't want you to go back and reframe it from a different direction. Like, it's a biopic. Like, don't.
And the sheer, and I again, with the biopic, I don't know how you fix this, but there's so many goddamn people, you can't keep any of them straight.
No.
And
Josh Peck was in there.
they're all dressed the same.
Yeah.
You know, like there's one part where they're trying to figure out who in movie number 3 with Oppenheimer on trial, or is that movie number 2? I totally forget.
I don't remember.
But either way, they're like, who gave Oppenheimer's file to the reporter? Who did that? Who did it? And then they're like shooting the guy from the side and the back so you don't see his face. And he sits down and they finally show and you're like, well, who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
You know, it's that Time of the Apes thing. You know, our mystery guest is, who's that?
It was. Then, like, they did that, like, a kind of a sneak thing later, and then, like, oh, who's this actor playing this colonel? It was Casey Affleck. Like,
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, if it was Ben Affleck, that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But it was Casey Affleck. Of course you played him as, like, a misanthropic, you know, sadist colonel who wants to kill people. Like, is that just... That's just Casey Affleck, isn't it?
Yeah.
But...
Now you thought he was good in Paranorman.
Yeah, I did like that.
Yeah, it just... How many times did we almost get up because we thought the movie was over?
Oh my gosh. Oh, and you know what is weirdest thing is, like, the most exciting part of the movie should have been, like, as they're counting up to test the bomb. And that's the part that was the most boring and I almost fell asleep through. Like...
And you can do this, like, you can, like, it's very possible to take a true life story, something where you know the outcome, and still make it exciting. You know, Apollo 13 is a great example of that. But I'm sitting there like, it's gonna work. Can we speed this up? We're all sitting here.
Like,
They didn't set the atmosphere on fire. It worked.
I think less interesting would have been the lead up to how it was done, and more interesting would have been afterwards. Like, the story they should have told was afterwards, how that affected him, and pretty ponies.
We just drove past Pretty Ponies. She's not saying we should have Pretty Ponies in the movie.
Like, it should have been how it affected him and how he changed his thinking and why that. But that gets lost in the murk of everything else. And, like, there were so many untied plot points that they just kind of left open. Like, at one point, he and his wife Kitty asked friends to take care of their son for a while, and then you never hear about it again, and all of a sudden they've got the son back, but it was never like resolved, and it was alluded to that the wife was an alcoholic, but never, I mean... And
every time their fucking kid was on screen, he was screaming.
Oh my god.
Every fucking time.
Like, just...
You know what I got nostalgic for watching this movie? There's a documentary called The Atomic Cafe.
Okay.
And it's made up of just all film clips and documentary clips and newsreels, kind of detailing the hysteria around the bomb and the direct, quote unquote, fallout in the 50s. And I remember watching it in high school, and it's one of the most gallows humor films you'll ever see.
Interesting.
You know, it's got, like, they have a bunch of the soldiers when they're about to test one of the bombs, and this is actual archival footage, and the commander's up there going, now remember, the thing that is the most dangerous is the light, not the heat. So don't worry about the light. And on the chalkboard behind him, it says things that are dangerous. and the first one is heat underlined 3 times. You know. Anyway. You know, but
now there was a very interesting episode of Call the Midwife that talked about the radiation poisoning that the people were subjected to during testing and during the bombing and whatnot. So, anyways.
Yeah, but so look, I get why like I say, like a lot of film geeks are gonna cream their pants over this.
I hate that phrase.
And I get how, like I say, the Academy is gonna love it, but I could not have cared less watching this movie.
No.
Could not have cared less.
And that's that's the worst part. I am a, like I said, history nerd, especially when it comes to the mid-20th century era. I am a total history nerd. And I could not care less about this story anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
And maybe if he had sharpened his focus, either told us the story about the creation of the bomb or the story about him being on trial, either one of those would have made a fine movie.
Mm-hmm.
Together, smushed together, it is just 3 hours that you are just sitting there going...
It's very rare for me to leave a movie and not do more research on it, especially something that's a historical, you know, biopic or anything like that. No, I did not. I had no desire to go look more into this.
And I had the Peter Griffin, you know, thing of, for God's sake, somebody throw a pie.
Huh.
You know, just something happen that's interesting. So, you know, if folks, if you're history nuts or whatever, like, and you want to go see it, fine and dandy. But if you're one of these people, oh, what should I see, Barbie or Oppenheimer? Go to Barbie.
Go to Barbie.
Go to Barbie a second time, for God's sakes.
Yeah, I would have rather spend the money on Barbie.
Yeah, this was not,
Yeah.
So, okay, so I think we've covered all of our bases. I think.
The most interesting thing about Oppenheimer is that halfway through the premiere, the cast walked out to join the actor strike.
Yeah.
Well,
So good on them.
like, even the cast couldn't sit through it for 3 hours.
Even the cast were bored.
Uh-huh.
So, oh God. All right. So final grade for you for Oppenheimer.
I gotta go D. Like, and that pains me because historical biopic, I should have liked this more. But no, the problem is I have nothing more than ugh.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a tiny bit kinder.
Yeah, because you lean Christopher Nolan. I think he's a misogynist butthole.
I think he is a good filmmaker. So I will give this one a C-. Bordering on the D, just for I can respect the filmmaking of it, but all the fancy tricks, all of the camera work, all of the, you know, the pompous, you know, aren't I deep, aren't I brilliant, you know, filmmaking, to me at least, is of no use if there's not a real human connection that I as an audience member can relate with.
This felt a little Zack Snyder director cut to me.
This, or just Zack Snyder. I mean, let's not just blame. I mean, the director's cut. I mean, yeah, I don't think I've seen a movie this self-important since the Zack Snyder director's cut.
There you go.
That is exactly, and has just about as much connection to humanity or emotion, or just as much. Yeah, I agree. I think
Christopher Nolan learned how to like women. I actually Googled, why does Christopher Nolan hate women? And multiple articles came up.
That's not a good sign.
No. Anyways.
Okay, so there you have it. There's there's that.
Yeah, that's a good way to end that one, honey. There's that.
There's that. That
Look,
was
more cows.
That was a thing that we saw. Okay, but anywho, so I don't have a clever sign off or wrap up for this, so we'll just
Bombs away.
bombs away. Yeah. So yeah, that was a thing. We saw it. We reviewed it. Go see it yourself if you don't like what we said. Anyway, so thank you for joining us on the drive. Thank you, my love. It's always fun to go to a movie, and sometimes it's more fun to go to the movies that you end up hating because you're so funny when you hate things.
This was me.
Yes.
Just like we started on Queen Bees.
Because you don't hate things. You'll try to find the positive in any movie, but when you really don't like it, you just are like, oh. Like, I fly off the handle at everything, but you just, you try not to, and it's hysterical to me.
Anyways.
So yes, so thank you all for joining us. We'll be back with more things. So anyway,
just wrap it up.
Just trying to wrap it up.
Just tell them that we'll see them at the movies.
I can't. I'm doing an Oppenheimer where every time you think it's over, I keep rambling.
Just say it.
Okay, so thanks for joining us, and as always, drive safe, and we will see you at the movies.